Need a Good Design Fashion package. And I went to Goodwill and bought a bunch of plain shirts and embroidered them. So this was the roses. It needs to be ironed. Okay. And this is the Southwest.
Oh wow, that's pretty.
Now all of these, other than the last one I'm showing you, I did asymmetrically, so they're not matchy-matchy. This is the birds. And then this one I did symmetrically, that's the butterfly.
And that one would fit me.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice job. Very nice.
Okay.
Oh, great Mondo bag.
Yes, I love these bags. I have a granddaughter that's my first grandchild is graduating high school this year, and she's picked her college. So I went online and found out what the logo is, and I digitized the center of this and then made the quilt for her. So she'll get this in June.
She don't know about it.
She doesn't know about it.
She will now.
No, she won't. Oh, she's going to Western Colorado.
Oh.
Or, excuse me, Colorado State. Sorry, it's in Fort Collins, yes.
Very nice. That's very good.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully she likes it. She's a little hard to please. And then, can I have a couple of you just help me? These quilts are all for the same thing, but I just thought I'd show the variety. I've started sewing for a NICU in a Seattle hospital, and they wanted these quilts in a particular size to go over the isolettes. So I've just gotten plain fabric and quilted it, which is really fun to do, but they love them, so it's really kind of a thrill to make it for them. Yeah.
Are those cotton or flannel?
I made cotton because she didn't want flannel, they didn't want flannel, and they didn't want polar fleece, and they really just wanted cotton.
What is it for?
They put them over the isolettes, and it's this size because then they can see in the isolette from the side, but it's still keeping the baby warm. And these, of course, are preemies. And the other thing I've been working on, I don't know how many of you know about angel gowns, where ladies, the only place in Washington State that Angel Gowns works for is in Tacoma. And I live in Snohomish. And they don't always take seamstresses and or gowns, so it's a little hard to do it. So I've been making these for the same NICU, and they're really tiny. So what I did is I made the smallest one that they would use and the largest. So this is almost full term, and this is about 2.5 pounds. So I've been making these, and they're just Velcroed. You know, you really don't need the back finished all the way down because the baby's going to be lying on their back. So anyway, those are kind of the things I've been doing.
That's really sweet.
Yeah,
That's
you.
for the babies.
For the babies that die, yeah.
And it's hard to get in to do that.
What hospitals are accepting those?
Well, I just know a nurse at one of the hospitals in Seattle that works in the NICU, so that's how I was able to make this connection. So I don't know. I would just ask. I mean, I think a lot of them would accept it. They're not?
No, our group, we tried, and
What size are the quilts?
They're 60 by 44, but it depends on how wide the fabric is. You know, if the fabric is 40 inches wide, then it's 40, but that still seems to work out fine. Okay, thank you.
That's great.
Charity. I shared some things last week, but this is about a class that was at Expo that I just thought was one of the best, and it was a young designer, pattern designer, who is affiliated with Esther's Fabric on Bainbridge, another good place for a field trip. But the website is bit.L Y / B LEND sizes.
Wow.
And it's like more like a blog. And she told us if we go online to that we can find all we need to know about blending sizes when you're using multi-size patterns. Did anyone else go to that class? Fabulous. And so she said, you know, there's such a crazy concept. So when you take your pattern that has, you start with your shoulder size. So she was small shouldered, big busted, broad beam. And so she said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So you start on your shoulders, say this will be size, and they use letters, not numbers. Start with your A on your shoulders. Draw the line out to the A. Then the bust may be D. So then you draw at the side seam, you take the D line, then you connect that A line to the D line, and then the same as you go down the garment. She had people call volunteering. I've got big shoulders and no bust, or vice versa. And then the same thing with the hips. No hips, but a big waist, and vice versa. So and she did, every one of them she did just, it was like a piece of candy. But if you do go online to that website, I did pull off pages that say, what if my measurements are between sizes? We are all differently beautiful, was the way she referred to it. Got to get rid of the numbers. Be sure parallel changes are crucial, but go on, take a look at it, and it might give you some help when you're playing with patterns.
Very nice. Very nice.
And her name is Karen Lepage, capital L-E, capital P-A-G-E.
Thank you.
I made a welcome to spring. This is from Anita Good.
Oh, isn't
And
that cute?
it has these little vases.
Yeah.
So pretty.
Oh, yeah.
And they have like 20 to choose from. So I made 5 for my daughter, and then I made these for me.
Oh, cute.
They're fun.
Look, cute little.
And I just glued the back because I don't have any energy for the back.
Glue is fine. Glue is wonderful.
But they're fun.
Very nice. Okay, who on this side has show and tell? Come on.
Yes, I'm the only one.
Well, that's okay. We'll take you. It's always fun to look in bags.
Okay, I'm not getting much done lately, but doing what I can. There's this one.
You're getting Christmas already ready.
Oh, yeah. This is a gift.
Is that Anita Good, the first one?
I need, yes. And these are a Christmas gift, and I know who they're going to. How cute. I thought these went so well with this part here. And these, I don't know how many were here last time when I told about my great-granddaughter that is divorced, has almost a 2-year-old child. She's working full-time, going to college, and she bought her first home at the age of 21.
Good for her.
I am so proud of her. She's the first one that's ever done this in the family, so she should be. So I made these for her. Her open house is the 30th of this month. Very nice.
Oh,
This is what she likes, so.
Very nice.
well, you're a nice grandma.
Well, I am actually a great-great.
Okay, you're a nice great.
I mean, I'm her great, but,
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. One of the things I didn't say about this rug that's really, really important is that you need a large table and you need it flat. So if you have a Sew Steady table, you want to add stuff to the wherever this rug is going to go. Now it's going underneath the machine. You're not going to have this huge piece going underneath the machine. It's always going to be on this side going through. But you need to keep this one level. That and the ironing will keep your bed from becoming a boat. So just remember that. So if you don't have enough room in your sewing room, go out on your dining room table and just put up some books or whatever that's going to make that flat. And what it's going to do is going to keep it from pulling as you're sewing, because it's going to get weighty. This one doesn't weigh as much as this cotton one does. It's a little heavier here. You know, it just feels. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. You know. Thanks. Okay. So I know though there's many of you out there that like to do handwork. I'm not one of those. I prefer to buy my sewing machines and they do my embroidery work. Now, if you don't have one of those fancy sewing machines, we will sell you one. So Bird Brain Design, their embroidery that they do in the machine makes it look like it was hand done. We use King Tut thread, which is a thicker thread, a 40-weight thread. It has to use a top stitch needle, and then this is done on the machine. I did the stippling myself, but all this is done by the machine, and it looks like somebody did it by hand. I started something 53 years ago for my oldest son, and I never have finished it. I don't know where it's at, because I was going to be just like my Nana. I didn't like that. So once I got an embroidery machine, forget all the handwork. So those of you who want the handwork, this is the darker one here. The one that has a CD in it, this is for your machine. There's all different formats in here. Now, this is the pillow that's in there, and this was done on the machine. And you know that these buttons over here, you can put those on by machine also. Just telling you. And this pillow, when I made the pillow, I do this with all of my pillows. I am not going to put that opening in the back. I'm going to put an invisible zipper in the side seam. And once you do that, you'll never want to go back to doing anything else. It's easy, it makes it look nice. And how I did my embroidery on here, this is a piece of home deck fabric, and I need to prepare it for my embroidery. So the first thing that I'm going to use on it is I'm going to use Best Press. I'm going to spray that on the back side of my fabric, on the wrong side. I'm going to let it penetrate a little bit. When we used to iron things years ago, we sprinkled them, and all that stuff got absorbed into the fabric. Well, then when we came out with sprays, we sprayed it on, and then we put the iron right to it, and we picked up the iron, and the iron had all the spray on it. It has to be penetrating into the fabric. So I leave it sit a little bit. Don't make it dry. Just let it sit a little bit. Turn it to the right side and press it. Then I take a piece of Pellon's 911 fusible interfacing, and I want to stabilize the fabric. This has nothing to do with the stitches. I want to stabilize the fabric so that when I hoop that fabric is not going to stretch. Anytime I'm using anything cotton or anything like that, this is what I'm going to use. Then I decided that I wanted to put a thin piece of fleece on the back of this. So I did use a fusible fleece, and I fused that on. Now, when I hoop that, I have to make sure that everything is in the hoop has the stabilizer and has the interfacing in there, because that's going to keep my fabric all straight and nice. And when you open it up and you take that out, it's not going to go like this. You know, it's going to look like it's just going to look real nice and flat. And that's how I do it. So, yes.
So do you, when you do the invisible zipper, do you do it flat?
Yes, you do. She asked if you do the invisible zipper flat. In May, I'm going to do that demonstration on the sewing machine for you. So come back in May for that one. Okay. So that's how I do my embroideries, and I'm happy with the way that they turn out. And yes.
Did you hoop the fleece too?
Oh yeah, I hooped it all. Yes, because now the fleece is going to stabilize my stitches. Now, if I use a Floriani, which we really like Floriani stabilizers, and the reason we like Floriani stabilizers is because they have some silicone in them. When we first had our stabilizers come out, if you had a sticky stabilizer or anything, we had to use a we had to use alcohol and clean the needle constantly, and we don't have to do that anymore. So you are going to stabilize your fabric, and then you're going to stabilize the stitches. There's 2 different processes, and you'll be really happy with that. And depending on what project you're doing is what stabilizer you'd use.
But you put the invisible fleece as the stabilizer.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because I wanted to kind of get a little poofy, puffy on it. And then what I did, this is just regular cotton on the back. And I did the same. So I put the 911 fusible interfacing on it, and then I put the, and then I put the stabilizer. Yes, the fleece.
Not the pillow, but when you get done talking, I want to ask about the question with the hanger, the thing on the hanger, when you get to it.
Go ahead.
Did you do the stippling before you put the design on?
No, she's asking me if I did the stippling before I did the embroidery. No, I didn't. Now, those of you who have a Brother machine or a Destiny, you can put that into your machine, and it'll do it for you around that design. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay, I like to stipple,
Yeah.
so I just do it myself, but you can do that with those machines, and then it'll just come around exactly where you want it. Or you could do another quilting design on those 2 machines. And if you don't have those machines, we sell
I had to
one.
bring those things in.
Oh, the hangers? I'm hoping to bring one in August. You'd have to see me in August too. Okay. You don't have to unless you come. Okay. Now, unfortunately, I have a pattern here, and you guys cannot take it home. It's the only pattern I have. This can be ordered, and this is for this really darling crossbody bag. And I highly recommend on this particular pattern, I highly recommend that on this pattern that you do copy it off, and I usually leave my patterns on my computer and just watch that. I highly recommend that you do go ahead and print this out. There's pages of it and pages of how you're going to cut this fabric. The reason that I'm saying that is this particular pattern has 2 zippers in it, and then it has an additional pocket. So that means there's a lot of fabric in here. There's several different pieces of batting. There's small pieces of batting. And I did this one first, and the reason that you want this printed out is that most of your lines are going to be horizontal on your sewing machine. So you don't really know where that line is unless you look at your instructions, and it goes number 9 over here, and I'm on 9 here. Then you'll know where it's at. It does tell you on the first instructions when you're going to put the zippers down first. Trust the pattern. It says do not open them. You're just going to leave them all, the tag out here and out here. And what happens is when they sew around that on the stabilizer, they're not sewing over the ends. They will tell you when to open the zipper. Do it then. And also what I highly recommend is when you open a zipper, you don't do it just halfway, because if you do it halfway, it's really, really hard to turn. So, so give it a little bit more opening so that you can turn it. It will have to be turned twice. And the only thing there's only this little tiny piece right up here is where you're going to have to you can put some steam and press it down. That's the only opening. Now, I was opening these zippers, and I opened the zipper in one of my presentations, and I couldn't get in here. And I thought, this was the 3rd one I did. You would think that I could do it right. And I closed it real quick, so nobody kind of saw it. Anyway, and so then what did I do? I opened it later, and I realized that when I didn't cut the stabilizer out. So those little scissors that were blunt? I used them, because if I had to use a real sharp pair of scissors in there, I would have cut my fabric. So those blunt scissors came in real handy. Now, we're going to use perfection tape with this. You are not going to use, if you guys don't know what perfection tape is, it's the pink tape that Floriani has. You're going to put that on, on the back of your hoop when you turn your hoop over, and you need to keep your fabric all straightened out, because you're going to have, when you're sewing, you're going to have some fabric that goes outside the hoop this way and some that goes this way. So the painter's tape, anything else will not make it stick, because you've got several layers. Make sure that it's stuck really good. Because when you put it back into your sewing machine, you don't want to have it bunched up, because guess what? You'll be taking it out. And just, you know, all I can say is just follow the instructions real well, and you'll be really happy with it. I make all of my straps with my bias tape maker, my Simplicity bias tape maker. And then what I did is I got cam snaps and cam rivets. And so mine have rivets in them up here. And you just have to make a hole in your fabric, and then you stick the rivet in. And I just went to Harbor Freight and I got a punch, and I got a nice hammer and a piece of hardwood, and I just start pounding my fabric and make a hole in it, put it in. And Cam Snaps has a really nice tool. It's about $80, and it'll put these snaps and their rivets in without squishing your hand really hard. And, you know, those old things that we've had years ago, I've had some for 50 years. I can't even squeeze them anymore. You know, they were not good then, but these are wonderful. They're worth every bit of money that you pay for them. Okay. So, unfortunately, this has 5 sizes. And these are about big enough to hold your iPad, your mini iPad. Aren't they nice? Crossbody bags. And the thing that makes it nice is that there is that extra pocket in it. This would keep a small cell phone. This would probably take your newer one that's a little bit bigger, and you can keep it in this pocket right here where you could reach it really well. So that's, I will pass this, but you guys have to remember I have to have it back. And go ahead and order that, because she will, Laura said she's going to get those in. We have I dropped everything on it. We have 4 different colors of the swivel snaps. We have copper, we have gunmetal, we have nickel, and we have antique. So you will need 2 for each bag. These are only the half-inch size. I did go up on 1 to a 3/4 inch size, but we have here the half-inch. So you'll need 2 of each color for each bag that you make. This was a real fun table runner to make. The templates in it are paper, and I did exactly what the instructions said, and then I did my way. Just saying. Yeah, that's right. Just a little rebellious there. Well, this kind of made a mess. I always make, when I'm making templates and it's in a pattern, I'm going to make a couple of copies, because something's going to happen to one of them. And so I made my couple of copies, and they said to go and put packing tape on this. I had more packing tape stuck to me than I did, you know, on the thing. But I did it. I thought, you know, I will do it that way. But how I would normally do it, this has freezer paper ironed to the back side. So there's, you know, just a little bit neater, and I didn't have any freezer paper stuck on me. And then, you know, see, I did. I obeyed here. Okay, so this is really an important part. You're going to use strip, you know, the jelly roll strips. Get them out of your drawer and put them onto something, because they're nicer outside the drawers. Make a nice thing. So here's your three pieces that are put together. And then what they suggest, I just happen to have these rulers that just work really good. I've taped it to it, because what I did there is that now I can take my rotary cutter and I can cut down, and I'm not cutting my paper. That's what's important there. And just make sure that the lines of your stitching lines are right on that. So 2 of these are going to go together like this, and they make this real cool design right here. And then there's another one here. And then you have a smaller one that fits in here. Well, I'm working in a RV, because you know my husband's over here working, so I have a small space to work in. And I was really happy getting all this done. I had it all cut. And if you notice on this pattern, I have to cut one of these pieces off. I have to cut part of this off. And I thought I was being really, really careful. I thought. And one thing that I've learned over my years of sewing is that I started putting it together and it looked like I cut it wrong. And normally I would have just gone in and started ripping and figuring out what I could do different. But I thought, you know what, I'll just walk out of my RV and I'll just go down to the office and I'll complain that I just ruined my table runner. And cry a little and want a little sympathy. And then, so now my head's a little bit cleaner, And so I went back and I didn't cut it wrong. I was putting it together wrong. But sometimes when we get that in our head, we can't get it out. The wrong, we keep doing the same thing again and again. And I've learned the best thing so I don't make any more stupid, mistakes is to walk away and get my head clean, clear and go, okay, I can wake up at night thinking, oh, I know what I did wrong, But I've learned instead of just jumping in and thinking I did it wrong, is to just walk away. So this was a real fun one. I did change one part. My sewing partner made this out of this Asian fabric. It was absolutely adorable. And she just stitched in the ditch with it, and she put her accent down here. I wanted to stop the color on mine because it's all pink, so I put mine up here, and I just used my walking foot and just stitched all of that. I did the walking foot on this, and then all the stippling was done by me on my machine. Same way with that one. It's all freehand, free motion. So here are the 2 rulers that I use. Now, if you don't have one of these rulers, we'll sell you one. But if you don't have one, you could take a square ruler and put that right on the corner of your square ruler. And all you're doing is you're preserving your cuts, and you're also preserving your template. Okay. We're always trying to bring in something to do with sewing because, we do sew other than quilts. And this is the first time we've brought in Morning Glory designs. And this is probably one of the simplest patterns that there is on the market. She also puts in here some soak that you can wash your stuff in, your fabric in. This fabric on this one, I picked it up at Expo a couple of years ago. And like I said, I had brought it home and I washed it all and put it in my drawer, and there it was. And this was so easy to make, it was almost embarrassing. The front and the back are the exact same. The back and the front facings are the exact same. And the only thing you do different to the front is you put a dart in it. I mean, talk about easy, And so you get that serger out and just do it really quickly. Now, my sewing partner did her dart just a little bit smaller. And I did mine to the pattern. I just did it right to the pattern. It has this little slit on the side. Now, because I have old arms, I do not make holes in my sleeves.
Yes.
Okay, that's just me, Okay, so the pattern calls for that, but guess what I did? I didn't. So the pattern is only 1/2 of the sleeve. So I cut that seam allowance off and I put it on the fold. Real easy. Those of you, there's not going to be my shoulders showing and there's not going to be my arms showing. It's just, I'm too old for that. Anyway, so on my partner, she did a 1/4 inch seam allowance around her neck area because that's what she did on the opening on her sleeve. Her sleeves are shorter than mine. I do not wear anything shorter than that. They're just not going to happen. And so I did about 1 inch away and did that. But I'm going to tell you, it went up so fast that if you want to top really quickly, this is going to go up really, really easy. And I think the sizes are really good. They're going to go from extra small, a 4, this is for a child, and up to extra large, 20 to a 22. So that means that this is it's going to be for all sizes, and it goes so easy. Now, it does call for batik, but you don't have to do it in batik because batik is a woven fabric. You can do it in any kind of woven fabric. You could do it in a knit. If you do it in a knit, just take the seam allowances in just a little bit. But it's an easy top. Like I say, the front and the back are the same except for the dart. You better make sure you put it on correctly.
The name of that one is?
Oh, the name of that is Design 54U. Design 54U. It's not real, not a real hard design. They just have their designs 54U. And I think I've shown you everything that I have, and I want to thank you all for coming out on February So Fun in March. It was fun. Oh, the prizes. Oh, I'm so close. For those of you that are on Facebook, we are going to pick numbers tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? And we are going to pick out a number, and whoever's name matches the number is going to get a prize. There's going to be 2 prizes, right? Okay.
Where did they
Say
get?
And
your
they are. Oh, look at the prizes that you get if you're online. Duck-billed scissors, and yeah, ooh, ah.
Do you have to comment?
And then look at that, romantic silhouettes.
Where do they get the numbers?
So there's no number. What you do is on the live Facebook feed, you would comment on that, and that is your entry to win one of the prizes. And the prizes will be shipped out or delivered to a local store if you're local.
Did that just all get on there? Okay, good, because I didn't know all that. I didn't know all that.
Should have been following us on Facebook.
Huh?
Should have been following us on Facebook.
Yeah, they were. She said they are following us on Facebook. Anyway, I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank those who are on Facebook for joining us today.